The program is this morning on ITV, and this is the Abuja Network Center. I am Charity Tanko. Yes, on the 10th of October, President Bola Tinubu granted amnesty to quite a number of persons, granted pardon to quite a number of persons. But as the list got out, there was controversy as to some of the names that were part of that list. There were so many talks, there were so many reactions from different quarters in Nigeria. There were particular names that made that list that people felt that they should not have made the list. And we can now say that, we can comfortably say that our president is a listening president, because as at yesterday, he rescinded that particular decision and a new list came out. And in this new list, some of those persons that were fingered as not supposed to be part of that list, they were actually removed from the pardon list. Some of them had their sentences commuted from life imprisonment to some years. And some of them had their own sentences commuted from rearranged by the presidency. And since yesterday, there have been reactions from different quarters in Nigeria. We are going to be looking at the matters arising coming from this particular new list that is out. And to discuss that matter with me, I have a legal practitioner with me right now on set. He is Barrister Abdulkarim Musa. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to ask, as a legal practitioner, that first list that came out, let's just say, because since the list came out, everybody has been blaming the president for signing that document. While some people say that the bulk of the blame should be on him, there are people who say that he shouldn't be blamed because there's no way he would have gone through all the list because he didn't compile the list. As a legal practitioner, what's your take on that?
All right, good morning. Thank you for having me. You see, the issues about whether the president compiled the list himself is a non-starter in the first place, because by the provisions of the Constitution, the president is empowered to grant clemency or pardon to convicted criminals. And in section 175 of the Constitution, that provision is made, and it is described as the prerogative of mercy. So like I said, the issue as to whether he was the one who made the list or not is a non-starter, because he is presumed to have made the list. But then, as to the contentions that there were people on the list who were not supposed to be there, all those issues are moral considerations, because when you say something is prerogative of mercy, there are two key words there: prerogative, the exclusive power that the person has to do something, and mercy is a something granted to somebody who is not deserving. So to say that somebody did not deserve mercy is ironic, because that is what mercy is. And at the risk of sounding ecclesiastic, mercy is something that I obtained but I did not deserve. So all the people on that list did not in the first place deserve it. So, to answer your question simply, the president is presumed to have made the list, and the defense that, oh, probably he didn't see all the people there, is a non-starter. It's not even a viable defense. The Constitution provides clearly that he is the only person that has the power to grant presidential pardon. So any list that comes out, it is presumed in the eyes of the law that it was the president who signed the list, and he has seen what he signed.
So what about the turnaround, the reverse list that came out yesterday? Because from your expectation, from your explanation right now, what the president did is constitutional.
Yes.
And it shouldn't even be questioned in the first place, because what is prerogative mercy? That means it is the president's right,
yes,
to grant clemency.
Yes.
And when they say mercy, we all agree that mercy is something that once given does not mean that
you deserve
the person merited it,
yes,
or anything. It's just
yes,
something that is given to
yes,
you.
Yes.
So as of yesterday, another list came out.
Yes.
And those particular people that were actually pointed out as not supposed to be in the list, they were not part of the list.
Well, you see, the thing is that that's the beautiful thing about democracy, because in a democratic government, consideration is given to the voice of the people. The majority may have their way, but the minority must have their say. So it's a beautiful work that the press is doing. It was the journalists that brought out the list and subjected it to scrutiny and criticism. So while the president has the constitutional powers to grant clemency and presidential pardon, there is also a moral side to it, because law flows from morality. It is the moral standard that we uphold as a society that gives birth to law. It is the do's and don'ts in the eyes of morality, the things that we as a people collectively disallow or allow, that are encoded into the constitution and the several laws that we have, and they become law. So at any point in time in the interpretation of the law or in the exercise of the provisions of the law, due consideration must be given to the morals that gave birth to that provision of the law. Now, when you look at section 175 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the idea behind that provision is that there are going to be criminals who committed an offense ignorantly, carelessly, or for some other reasons, have themselves convicted. Because when I say somebody is a criminal or got convicted ignorantly, you may not know the provision of a law and you will violate it, and by a violation of that law you will be convicted, because you're not knowing the law is not an excuse. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So you would have broken the law and you would go to jail. Essentially, you are not a criminal. But for such a person, such provision is made in the Constitution, such that upon review, because this person is essentially not a criminal, after some time, and if we see that this person has conducted themselves in a way that they can be recuperated back into the society, the president is empowered to review such persons who are not essentially criminals but got themselves in situations that were unlawful. The president is empowered to now release such people, or even criminals who have come to repent, and we have, upon consideration of their conduct, see that by the time we incorporate them into the society, they'll become useful members of the society. That is the idea behind that provision. So the outcry by Nigerians is that the president has not kept with the morals, the foundations, the values upon which that provision was made, by releasing people who were perceived to be his cronies, his friends, his relatives, or political associates, or people who are believed to be useful in election, either in terms of violence or in terms of resources to him. And Nigerians, there was an outcry, and it is commendable that there was a review. It shows that the president is listening to the Nigerian people. So the review of the list is quite commendable for me. It shows that the president has listened to the Nigerian people, and the Nigerian people has insisted on their own values.
There's the issue of morality. You talked about most of the questions raised by Nigerians were based on morals.
Yeah.
And like the case of the release of drug barons, for instance, this is a country that is constantly fighting against illicit substance abuse, drug trafficking, and all of that. Hardly a week goes by without the NDLEA arresting one person or the other. And now the questions Nigerians were asking is, if we as a country are trying to curb this menace, why release people who are responsible for this dangerous habit?
Well, just like I said earlier, when something is when there is a prerogative of mercy, you cannot question the rationale for the grant of mercy or pardon or clemency. But when you talk about the drug-related offenders who were granted pardon, I'm even of the view that more of the convicts of drug-related offenders should be pardoned.
Why?
Because we are in a very funny society. Because when you hear that drug lords are being pardoned, it is unfortunate. It is those ones that even took they committed real drug offenses that are being
Please
pardoned.
hold your thoughts there. We're taking a short break, and when we return, the conversation continues.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Okay, the conversation is still matters arising on the reverse list by President Bola Tinubu yesterday concerning those that were pardoned weeks back. And I'm still here with Barrister Abdul Karim Musa, still discussing the issue shortly. My colleague from Benin will also be joining in the conversation. So you were saying something?
Yes. So, like I said I expect more drug offenders to have been released. And I've said this.
And I ask why?
Now, the thing is that, you see, a lot of drug offenders in Nigeria are people who were involved in petty drug abuses. Okay. Like
but not when you attacked a baron.
Not a baron, yes.
Well, they say drug lords.
Drug lords.
Baron. That means you're not just a
yes,
petty.
but the idea is that a person or a youth who is involved in drug abuse, is it proper that the person is convicted or the person should be rehabilitated? It is rehabilitation the person needs, not conviction. So the essence of the exercise of the presidential power to grant presidential pardon to convicted criminals in this instance should be extended to such criminals who there's an offense. There are offenses that are classified as non-violent crimes. Non-violent crimes are those kind of crimes that the criminal did not inflict any harm or injury on another person, but rather inflicted it on himself. For instance, drug abuse. It is not an offense to any other person, essentially and fundamentally. It is an infringement on a violation of the person himself who abused the drug. So for such offenders, there should be a little sympathy extended to them, and what they need essentially is rehabilitation. So for some, the idea of a prison is supposed to be a correctional center, so that such offenders go there. When they are rehabilitated, if we see that they have been reasonably rehabilitated even before the completion of their convicted term, then we should be able to incorporate them back into the society. That's why I maintain the position that I expect the president to even grant to more people. Unfortunately, the grant of this presidential pardon is not extended to such people, such drug offenders, as I would expect. It's extended to drug dealers, those major offenders of drug, which is a problem, because those ones are the ones committing the real crime. They are the channels through which the drug gets to the society. Those are not the kind of people that are deserving of that constitutional provision, because these ones are the ones that are institutionalizing the offense. So what I expect is the grant to people who are themselves, and because some of these offenders are people who got into such acts by reason of circumstances, social or societal in nature. So those were the class of people I expect that the president should have extended this benevolence and pardon to, and not the ones who are involved in supplying. But then, to make the issues clear, nobody has really sat down to do an analysis of the offenses that each of those people that were granted clemency particularly committed. So we should not expand beyond the scope of what we know.
Okay, we have Evans from Benin. I'm sure he is waiting to ask you a question.
All right, thank you so much, Charity Tanko there. Yeah, from our Benin Network Center, we also have our guest, Nevi Obakedo, a foremost public affairs analyst and, of course, a lecturer at the Department of Political Science and Public Administration, University of Benin. Nevi Obakedo, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning, viewers and listeners. Thank you for having me this morning at TV.
All right, now the issue of the presidential, revocation of the mercy of prerogative of mercy now is attracting a national discourse. But you tell us, because when we say prerogative of mercy, it is constitutionally backed up. I mean, it is the presidential prerogative of mercy. But from this whole development, little wonder if the president would have revoked the sentence if people did not start reacting. And if that is the case, do you think it is still the presidential prerogative of mercy? Some call it prerogative of mercy of the public, no more prerogative of mercy of the president. What's your finding?
Well, the point of departure in assessing this debate or discourse is by looking at the legal framework of presidential pardon or presidential clemency or prerogative of mercy of the president. The drafters of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended in section 175, subsection 1 to 3 of it. They did not leave anyone in doubt about the way the president should exercise his prerogative of mercy. Number one, the president can review any punishment on any citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is serving punishment either in prison or incarcerated. Number two, it is on the basis of his consultation with the Council of State. And number three, it is only in the area of laws that have been passed by the Act of Parliament. So having this as a legal basis, the president can pardon any person, whether man or woman, whether the person is sentenced to death, whether the person is sentenced to life imprisonment, whether the person is serving some number of years in prison. And when we talk about the People's Court and the Judicial Court or the Legal Court,
the Constitutional Court,
yes, it baffles me that people used to make statements. They just make statements on commonsensical ground, not on legal ground. Now, for a president, whether Nigeria president or any other president for that matter, to exercise prerogative of mercy, there are usually factors that induce it, factors that predispose it. Number one, we have what we call legal reasons. When we say legal reasons, that one is like an omnibus statement, but there are branches. There are cases that get to Supreme Court and people are sentenced, but yet there will be miscarriage of justice in that process. If the matter is brought before the president, that, oh, you consider this person, A or B, for prerogative of mercy on the basis of miscarriage of justice that was done in the process of trying that person, the president can table that matter before the Council of State with the reasons. And then there are other legal reasons, other legal reasons. But one thing that I've discovered after looking at the prerogative of mercy that the president brought out the other day before a recent reversal is that there are some persons who deliberately committed offenses that were known, who are supposed to have been allowed to pay dearly for their crime against the state, not even against citizens alone. They were granted pardon. Now, in law, there's what we call political jurisprudence, a point where political influence judicial decisions, whether judicial decisions in court or judicial decisions that the president is carrying out by the powers conferred on him. It's what we call political jurisprudence. So if you look at what the president did, you can say that there's element of political jurisprudence in it. Number one, because the president is gunning for 2027 general election, and he believes that the way and manner the spread of the list.
But that's playing politics with the law.
Yes, that's why I said that. I started by saying that there are reasons why the president exercises what we call prerogative of mercy or clemency or pardon. Number one is legal reasons. And I made mention of miscarriage of justice, for instance. Number two is as a result of political reasons. So the political reason is connected to political jurisprudence.
Yeah.
So a man who is battling for survival, a man who believes that he is going to enter into a contest where if care is not taken, he may not succeed.
So the president is right.
Yeah, the president is, he has exercised his powers of, but as has been said in other circles, that the president is a listening president. If, as a result of the use and cries about the presidential pardon list, the president reverses himself to say, oh, in the case of Sanda, Mary and Sanda, who killed the husband, Bilyaminu Bello, and was sentenced to death. So one expect, for instance, the president to say, okay, National Council say, consider this death sentence, let's convert this one to life imprisonment. Then total pardon. It encourages people to go into crime. It encourages people, some women tomorrow, when they believe that their husband is not performing well, is not living up to expectation, they can get angry and just ask, okay, my case will be like the case of Sanders. So the president, while trying to exercise his prerogative of mercy, should ensure that it is not setting machinery in motion for people to go into crime, because they will not be dearly punished they will not be duly punished for the crime that they have committed, because the punishment for each offense is well spelled out. So then there are also other reasons, like trying to discongest,
just quickly, because of time,
to decongest the prisons, and therefore national reconciliation and national unity, like in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, for instance. You know, if the president grants him pardon, it's not because he did not commit treasonable offenses or he's not guilty of for some of the offenses that have been leveled against him, but in the interest of national integration and national unity, it can be granted pardon.
All right, so let's go over to Abuja now. Over to you, Charity.
Thank you very much. Barrister, we just have a minute to wrap this up. So just tell Nigerians, because most of the information that you just brought out, Nigerians are not aware of it. So what should be done in terms of educating Nigerians on these processes going forward?
Well, the most important thing is that the Nigerians we must be firm on the values that we uphold, and we must communicate at all times possible to our leaders that we expect them to make decisions across the values that we uphold, and that in the exercise of their constitutional powers, those powers must be exercised judiciously and fairly. So even if the president has the powers to grant clemency and pardon to convicted criminals, such powers must be exercised judiciously and in the interest of the greater good for the society. So it's not an issue, because we are worried. The worry is that people who are dangerous to the society should not be released back into the society, and that should be the consideration of the government and the Nigerian people and the Council of State, who the president is empowered to confer with before signing that presidential pardon. And the Council of State includes all former presidents, the Senate president, the vice president, and such other persons. So we must extend our gaze beyond the person of the president to also the members of the Council of State. And we expect...
Well, I've just been told that I have more minutes, so I guess I can continue. I can ask you more questions. Okay. Does the Constitution provide the process, the criteria for which one can be granted pardon? How is it done?
Okay. The Constitution does not make express provisions for the procedure for the grant of clemency or presidential pardon. The Constitution simply provides the power of the president to grant clemency. But then the Constitution provides that list, or in granting presidential pardon, the president has a duty to confer with members of the Council of State. And the members of the Council of State include the president as the chairman, the vice president, the Senate president, all former presidents of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all governors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are members of the Council of State. So When the president released a list of the people he granted pardon, it is beyond him. There is an input from all these persons that I have mentioned.
So for this particular list,
yes,
both the first one and the revised one,
yes,
can we comfortably say there was the input of all of this?
Yes, by the Constitution in Section 175, it is provided that the president's grant of presidential pardon is subject to the review of the members of the Council of State. So both the first one and the second one is presumed to have passed through the screening or the consideration of the members of the Council of State. And by the way that events have unfolded, one can even say or suggest that there's actually an input from these members, seeing that there was an earlier list and then there was a review. It shows that there is input from persons who have suggested that certain names should be removed or the list should be profiled in a way different from the way it was earlier profiled.
Yeah, from what you just explained, that means, there was this particular name that, if I can even say, that was the particular name that started the whole thread, especially on social media. Yeah. I'm talking about Mariam Sanda,
yes,
the one that was convicted for killing her husband. So there was so much hue and cry that why should her name be part of that list, looking at the gravity of our offense. In fact, some people went as far as saying that if that is the case, there's some men that have been convicted for similar offenses, for the same offenses, crime, should also be pardoned. So from what you have said,
yes,
and constitutionally, that means she also deserved that.
Yes, see, the thing is, just like I laid the background, at the risk of sounding ecclesiastic, when we say that somebody has been granted mercy, it means that the person did not deserve it in the first place. And without whipping up sentiment, the president is empowered to grant presidential pardon to anybody. But now, in the case of Mariam Sanda, there is, like I said earlier, there is a thin line between morality and law. And when we examine criminal law, there is a criminology side to it, which is the social factors that lead to crime. So in the grant of presidential pardon to Mariam Sanda, as Nigerians saw or thought to be, the problem Nigerians had was the criminology factors associated with that grant. Those criminology is the social factors that lead a person to committing a crime. And the worry about the grant of pardon to somebody like Mariam Sanda by many people is that what will be the consideration, what will be the impact of this presidential pardon on the family of the deceased husband because of the notorious nature of that case. Secondly, what will be the impact of the presidential pardon on other persons in the society? Because the reason why one of the reasons why people are convicted for offenses is that a message be sent to the larger society that if you conduct this kind of act or offense, this is the resultant effect or the punishment that awaits you. But we fear that in the event that it has now become clear that the president can grant pardon to people based on political consideration, a person can even commit a crime with the hope that his kinsman can become president one day and he'll be granted pardon. And mind you, it is not only the president that has the power, to grant the pardon. Governors, the president has the power to grant presidential pardon for offenses created under Act of the National Assembly. Any law made by the National Assembly is called an act. But laws made by the state houses of assembly are called laws. There are several descriptions for different laws. There are certain laws that are called acts, certain laws are called laws, certain laws are called edicts, certain laws are called decrees, depending on who made it and when it was made. By the provisions of the Constitution, governors are also empowered to grant pardon to persons who committed offenses created by state houses of assembly. So the fear is that people can now begin to commit offense. Thugs can disrupt elections. People can do anything they like. If they perceive that their kingsman is one day going to become the governor, and then he'll come and release them. That is why we criticize the political approach to exercising the president's power to grant pardon to convicted criminals.
As your final word, what will be your advice to government on how to do these things so that there can be trust? Because clearly Nigerians have lost trust in government, and that is the reason anytime government goes out to roll out a policy or does something, you see Nigerians coming out to criticize and say this, they will poke holes and make sure that something is wrong with this. Your advice to government going forward?
Yes, the thing is that it is unfortunate that the Nigerian people has lost confidence and faith in the Nigerian government. It shows that the government no longer serves the interests of the people, but the interests of the few people in power. What my advice would be to the government of the day is that in exercising the powers that they have in the constitution or exercising their political authorities, due consideration must be given to the interest of the Nigerians rather than the interest of the privileged few or those in power. And if they continue to act in that path, with time, the confidence that Nigerians should have in the government will be resuscitated. But if at every juncture we see that the decisions of government are made across political interest lines, are made across election calculation lines, then the Nigerian people will not have confidence in the Nigerian government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barrister Abdulkarim Musa, for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
We hope to have more in due course. Well, that's it from the Abuja Network Center, and now over to Lagos Network Center for the continuation of the program.
One more time, Charity, there. Now, it's only natural that Miriam Sanders' case seems to have taken the front burner of the presidential pardon and the revocation of the presidential pardoning. All right, so our guest is still right here, Neville Obakedo. Neville, as we wrap up now, so what is your final take on the developing story?
My final take is that as it is enshrined in the Constitution, the president can grant a presidential pardon. It is not to sit in Aso Rock and grant presidential pardon. It is to embark on wide-range consultation with members of the National Council of State, which includes all former presidents, himself, the chairman, and then past chief justices of Nigeria. So they had to deliberate on the issues surrounding the offenses that were committed in the first instance. Then the impact of such pardon on the society should be put into consideration. Well, I thank Mr. President for even listening to the craft Nigerians, and it is a moral issue for the president to listen and to withdraw the initial list, then to now do some adjustments. Okay. I thank the president on that one.
Okay. All right. So I want to say thank you to you, Neville Obakedo, and also our guest in Abuja there, for explaining the situation.